Hi people, my name is Murmur as always, and as usual. Yeah, I'll be covering another goetic spirit. It's gonna be spirit number 54 from the goetic. Murmur or Murmus, or Murmur or Murmus. The 54th spirit is called Murmur, Murmus or Murmux, or Murmur, Murmus or Murmux. I'll be using the latter for the sake of convenience, so Murmux. That's spelled Murmux. He is a great duke and an earl, and appeared in the form of a warrior riding upon a griffin, with a ducal crown upon his head. There do go before him his ministers with great trumpets sounding. His office is to teach philosophy perfectly and to constrain souls of the deceased, to come before the exorcist to answer those questions which he may wish to put to them if desired. He was partly of the order of thrones and partly that of angels. He now ruleth the religions of spirits, and his seal is this, etc. Yeah, you can see this. You can see a seal in the thumbnail alongside the description. Now, in terms of his appearance, what is mentioned, that he appears like a warrior riding upon a griffin with a ducal crown on his head. Everything is correct except for the griffin part. But again, he can alternatively have a griffin, but more conventionally, specifically when I summoned him, it was a horse. It was just a steed. Quote unquote, just a steed. So he looks like a typical medieval cavalryman, like a knight clad in heavy armor. And he does indeed have a ducal crown on his head. Yeah, what else was I gonna say? He also does have indeed what is said in the appearance, ministers with great trumpets sounding. These are more familiars of him, that look like general, I want to say troll looking creatures that are like yay high, essentially as high as a midget or a little person, dressed in regular medieval clothing, if you will, like nobility based clothing, I would say, playing instruments, like the ones in the forefront or at the forefront that were the biggest gnomes, or I mean not gnomes, that were the biggest trolls. Let's just say half the size of the average human being, like as big as a 10-year-old. Was a let me see. They were playing trumpets, and they were the loudest. And in the behind them, you had smaller troll-looking creatures that wore mundane clothing that were playing either flutes or banjos, the latter, general banjos, like medieval style banjos. The music is quite nice, etc. And that's it for his thingy. He also held a lance, so a typical medieval knight, riding a horse. That's regarding his appearance. Now, regarding his specialties, his office is to teach philosophy perfectly and to constrain souls of the deceased to come before the exorcist to answer those questions which he may wish to put to them if desired. So that would essentially stand for philosophy and necromancy, specifically bringing the dead before you and to ask them any questions if you had any, or provided you had any. The philosophy bit is not correct. I see where they got that from, but it's not correct. I want to say minimal at best, but even that is in itself minimal at best, honestly, or just speculative or argumentative, at least in part. So yeah, I wouldn't recommend approaching him for philosophy or for philosophical ends and or means, or anything knowledge based in a conventional sense, or in an academia based sense, in an academic context. And the part about necromancy, dealing with the spirits of the dead and whatnot, that part is correct. The reason for that is because Murmux he aligns with the zodiac sign Scorpio, so he's Martian. It's also not a coincidence that I'm recording this video on a Tuesday, when Mars is at its strongest. And he has no specific specialty, honestly. All things relating to the zodiac sign Scorpio. Think of any venture where coercion is warranted or required. So anything where you want to do something forcefully or want to get something done forcefully, or improving your libido, sexually speaking, um, or making someone bluntly put horny for you, or making someone lust after you. Um, Money, wealth, but specifically wealth through external means. Think of inheritances, think of sponsorships, etc. But also the conventional, a good job that warrants a good income. Specifically, for example, with an organization that deals with money, like a bank, a payment processing company, anything, okay, where essentially the money of other people is handled or traded or dealt with. I mean, even stocks are on the table. These are enough examples. So yeah, all these things relating onto Scorpio, and he doesn't specialize in any of these things. All of these things are just, or what you can approach him for. And he specifically corresponds to, what was it again? The degree in any case that he aligns with and or corresponds to specifically emphasizes motion, and I saw that when he appeared, he is like constantly moving around, like his horse is like constantly like going in circles, etc. It's like he can't sit still, but that simply emphasizes his character. He's like always on the move and whatnot and related. And oh yeah, also I briefly saw like a couple of wild animals appear with him, lions and snakes, but only brief. It's a reference to the minor Sagittarian influence he has. So his influences are in terms of alignments or attribute wise, or Scorpio and Sagittarius, but Sagittarius is quite minor. Scorpio is the norm, the dominancy. That's also when he appeared. He was a bit not transparentish, but he wasn't as clear as usual. Not that he wasn't clear, but I mean he had like an aura around, about him that made it so that he seemed vaporish in nature, like there were like vapors around him, or it was like he was partially made up of vapor. Again, I can see the Scorpio. It's quite common with Scorpio-based entities or similar, because Scorpio deals with that at an energetic level. That's essentially the energetic manifestation of Scorpio. And the appearance, of course, like he's anything but the only spirit in the goetic that's mentioned in the Lesser Key of Solomon Book 1 that's mentioned having that appearance. And the reason for that is because it was simply more aesthetically pleasing to especially those that summoned him. Most likely that's also where the name comes from, his name, the one that I'm using, Murmux or Murmus, is most likely a Latin version of his name. So simple murmur turns into Murmur. Someone that speaks Latin or a Latinesque language would like, or any other language other than English, would pronounce it like this, the way I'm pronouncing it: Murmur, Murmus, or Murmux. You know. And let me see if there was anything else. Yeah, last but not least, his appearance. I'm sorry, not appearance. His attributes in terms of what type of spirit he is. That he was, what's mentioned that he was partly of the order of thrones and partly that of angels, is true. He is indeed a fallen angel, and he did indeed belong to the order of thrones in part, and partly that of the order of angels, but not thrones in the sense of Ophanim. Yeah, not thrones in the sense of Ophanim. Thrones in the sense of virtues. Like all the angelic orders are like intertwined with each other. Like everything is intertwined with itself in existence. And Ophanim usually refers to that thrones, usually specifically the Ophanim refers to the angels that appear as giant wheels and whatnot. Like those kind of upper high level angels, like top tier angels. No. Okay, this is more mid tier in the sense of virtues. He deals more, those are the angels that deal more with elements and whatnot and related, higher level stuff. And the lower tier angels deal with, in the angelic hierarchy, deal more with mundane human affairs, if you will. The order of angels, yeah, it's one of the lowest orders, if I'm not mistaken, the lowest. Doesn't matter. Not lowest obviously in an insulting way. Lowest in the sense that it deals with human affairs primarily, angels from the order of angels. So he was part from that order and part from the order of virtues. So within this context, you've got like two You've got the Order of Thrones Ophanim, and you've essentially got the section of the Order of Thrones that is virtues, translated to a human context or human comprehension. And yeah, his true form is a typical angel, like a Caucasian looking blonde man, but not blonde, more strawberry blonde, approximately, yeah, like reddish blonde, with the colors of blue, dark blue, the typical color of the zodiac sign Scorpio, and yellow, but the yellow is minor, and I asked also what that was about, and I got confirmation that it's simply a reference to the minor level of Sagittarian energy he has, but specifically the sun in Sagittarius, so that's what, hence the yellowness rather than the cornelian red or just plain red that Sagittarius deals with, or that represents Sagittarius in general. Yeah, and for the rest, again, just typical angelic looking being dressed in white robes, and he was holding two swords, something that I'm used to seeing angels that align with the zodiac sign Scorpio do. Okay, similar to Abraza, an angel that from a cherubim angel, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, a cherub that I summoned back in the day called Abraza. He also held. I'm simply bringing it up for a good measure's sake. Like he also held dual swords essentially. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Bye bye.